Hello, everyone. Today's topic of The Void is Batman Beyond. Uh, I'm gonna be blunt with you all. This video is something I made so I could rant about the problem I have with the show. Giant disclaimer before I continue. I am not shitting on the show at all. The show has its good moments, and some of the characters are some of my favorites. One of the characters I will talk about is my whole YouTube layout and is my whole brand right now with my social media accounts. So with that being said, let's get right into the topic of today's discussion. Batman has had his fair share of very interesting villains over the years, with a large some of them becoming fan favorites. Batman Beyond does not have this. Batman Beyond does have some interesting villains, such as Spellbinder and Shriek, and not to forget the Joker's crew that we see in Return of the Joker: Wolf, Bonk, Chucko, the DD Twins, and Ghoul. Other than that, when I first tried to watch the show, I really couldn't get into it. The villains just didn't seem as interesting to me, than what they might be to others. The interesting villains are the ones that we get from the movie. However, we only get to see them in said movie in 1.5 episodes of a completely different show, Justice League Unlimited. We never really get to know what happened to any of the other old root villains of Batman. We never find out where Killer Croc is, or Clayface for any matter. We don't get to know what happened to the Riddler or Oswald, and we only ever see Harley at the end of the movie. Catwoman is mentioned once, and Poison Ivy, like all the rest, isn't even mentioned at all. None of them are mentioned. That's why I have such a problem with the show. Yes, I know some of you are gonna say, "Oh, but Percy, don't you know the old saying of out with the old, in with the new?" Well, yes, but they could have at least shown them a couple times, or maybe even had some appearances in the show. Like, we got to see what happened to Bane. Why not more episodes like that? Well, Bane is an old, shriveled, frail man who's being kept alive by the same drug that he used when he fought Batman. And now it killed him, so it's like, why not show what happened to the others? They brought back Mr. Freeze as well, and, this segues me into the first character that I want to fully talk and focus on: Ghoul. Ghoul, real name Stuart Carter Withrop III, was born into a wealthy family who ran away to join a subgroup of Jokers for the kicks. His wiki states that he's heavily into techno music and serves as the group's techie. He's also known to carry around a pumpkin bucket that has various weapons in it and has a horror-themed getup, much similar to Scarecrow. That's all we get for his backstory for him, which I'm going to acknowledge and then throw away. Instead, I'm going to replace it with what we could have had. So in the comics, Scarecrow has a sister, which he promptly aims a gun at, while she is a baby who's blonde. Who else is blonde? Ghoul. My friend Luna has come up with how Scarecrow can tie into the series perfectly, which, going back to what I just said, fits perfectly, seeing as John and his sister wouldn't have had much contact, or any contact. It wouldn't be much of a surprise for Ghoul to find out about him sooner or later, and maybe while he was a child, up to his teens, like, around now, in, like, Batman Beyond and after, he suddenly becomes interested in his uncle's work, and he pushes to know more about his uncle, only for his mother to snap and scream at him about it, which causes Ghoul to dip into Neo Gotham, basically saying, "Alright, fuck this, if I'm not gonna get answers here, I'll just go meet him myself," where he finds his uncle, which could also tie into what we could have had as a possible episode, of Ghoul meeting his uncle, the previous Scarecrow. This would make so much more sense than what we got. And yes, I'm aware of the theory that Ghoul isn't Scarecrow's nephew, but his son, and all I have to say about that is, no. I believe we could have had an episode focusing on Ghoul's past and what drove him to join the Joker's gang. What else pushed him to run away besides for the fun of it? I know some are going to have my head for this, but shush for a moment. Please, shut the fuck up. I adore his character design. I wish we got more of him. I can only dream of Ghoul showing up in future Batman media. But that's really all I have to say about Ghoul. Other than I adore him, and I totally don't have favorites when it comes to the Joker's gang members. That's a lie, I do. It's him. It's Ghoul. It's always gonna be Ghoul. So moving on to our next member, or members of the Joker's gang, let's talk about the Didi twins. The Didi twins, real names Delia and whatever that pronunciation is, because I can frankly not remember how to pronounce it, Dennis, are probably the most Harley Quinn-like characters we will ever get in Batman Beyond media. This is probably because the two are related to Harley Quinn, being the former Jester's granddaughters. Not much is known about the two, which is why I wanted to talk about them. I don't have many thoughts about the twins, but I do believe they could have been used a lot better than what they were. What brought them to become part of the Joker's gang? Was it because they inherited the obsession with Joker like Harley Quinn had? Harley is clearly upset the fact that they were a part of the gang in the first place, which have been great to explore. Sadly, they were only blessed with the skills of being able to fight in heels and having a great design. I would have loved an episode all about them, and maybe even Harley as well, seeing as how she's still alive, but we'll never know, because they were only made for the movie and the Justice League Unlimited episode, and that's all we got of them. They might have some appearances in the comics, but like Ghoul, they may be very small depending on the comic. Now, some of you might be saying, but Percy, Batman Beyond ended a long time ago. Why complain now? Well, like I said before, we could have had such good villains like Didi and Ghoul without reusing Scarecrow and Harley, but instead we only got to see them a couple of times, and ever since they've been left behind while more modern Batman media continues to overuse the same villains. No shade to more modern Batman media, like the live action Batman movie that came out with Robert Pattinson. Not throwing shade at that. While there have been some great rogues that have been made and just have been sitting on the sidelines while the live action movies get made. Again, no shade to the Robert Pattinson Batman. If you're wondering why I didn't say anything about Bonk, Chucko, or Wolf, it's really because I don't have anything to say about them. Bonk is dead, and wasn't a favorite of mine. But Percy, Bonk is alive in the Justice League Unlimited episode. I'm considering that non-canon. It says it's an alternate timeline, and I don't think I have enough sanity to even begin talking about that whole timeline thing. Believe me, I've tried. And it makes sense to just give up on it. That is all I wanted to focus on. Batman Beyond was a show that did well in some parts, but when it came to the villains, it lacked a lot to be desired. If you want to see more of this type of content, leave a comment or whatnot. I don't post commentary all the time, but I do make funky videos about my favorite characters and such.